Hello everyone, it's Nasadekola. It's been a while here. I hope you're keeping well. Alright, let's get started. There is this issue that came up recently, just very recently, about 2 weeks ago. A nurse had her license revoked. It was a sad incident. So I'm just going to walk us through what actually happened, what lessons we can learn from the incident, and how we can prevent ourselves from falling victim of all these issues. She had her license revoked for making friends with a patient. The patient was admitted under her care. That was in 2018, September 2018. The patient was diagnosed of having borderline personality disorder. So, borderline personality disorder, it affects your thoughtfulness, how you think, how you perceive, eating disorder as well. So, they consider the patient to be highly vulnerable. Well, the nurse, one thing led to another, they became friends. Then the reports had it that they began speaking most of the days. That was after discharge. So they go for shopping together, they meet in their respective houses, they get coffees together and things like that. They do kickboxing classes, I think twice a week. They went for netball at some point as well. So the basic things that friends will do together. So they became friends outside the professional capacity. The report added that the nurse also shared personal information about our colleagues with the patients, then information about other patients with this particular woman. And at one point during their friendship, the nurse said and was quoted to the woman and said to the woman, "If anyone found out that we were friends, I would be in trouble." So she said that to the woman, to the patient. Incidentally, unfortunately for the nurse, this woman needed extra medical attention, so she went to another facility, and one thing led to another. She let out the information. The information got to a line manager, and our line manager called her and gave her a warning not to contact the woman anymore. So few minutes after being told by the manager not to contact the person again, the nurse tried calling the woman. She also sent messages to her on Facebook. Okay, all these evidences were brought against her during the hearing, and a disciplinary action was launched by the hospital against the nurse. So before the disciplinary action could take place, the nurse resigned. So she resigned, obviously, probably to avoid the disciplinary action. So she didn't attend the hearing. So, and when that happened, they reported to the NMC, to Nursing and Midwifery Council. The panel had it that the nurse action was extremely serious to allow her to continue practicing, and they felt her action had undermined public confidence in the profession. Those were their words, that the nurse action has undermined public confidence in the profession, and they consider the patient to be extremely vulnerable. It's an abuse of our power as a nurse to have gotten into such relationship with the patient. Okay. So the NMC said the nurse hadn't shown any insights into her misconduct, and there was the risk that she would repeat it if they allow her to continue practicing. Okay. So, and that is the main reason why they struck her off the nursing register. What that means is she had her license revoked. She can no longer practice as a nurse. So, looking into this story, there are quite a lot of lessons to learn. It looks a bit unfair or too harsh on the nurse, because she wasn't even suspended or anything. She was struck off immediately. Okay. But to be honest, there are quite a lot of lessons to learn from this. The number one lesson I picked from this is Nursing and Midwifery Council of the UK. They are not afraid to strike off anybody, any nurse, when you misbehave. Okay, looking at the level of the short staffing in the country and the number of nurses leaving their register every year. Just last year, the last calendar year, the official data released had it that Nursing and Midwifery Council lost over 27,000 nurses in one calendar year, 27,133 specifically. So for a body that lost 27,000 nurses in a calendar year, you might be thinking probably they will be afraid of losing more hands, but that is not the situation. So they are not afraid to uphold standard, and if that means taking you out of the numbers, they are not afraid to do that. So please protect your pen and be careful of your actions and your reactions. So the second thing I picked from this is it doesn't have to be sexual for it to be inappropriate. Okay, there was no evidence of anything sexual. There was no connotation of anything sexual throughout the hearing, throughout all these issues. It was just female friends. So they went for just take coffee together, kickboxing, go for shopping, just regular friendship acts. There was nothing, because when you hear inappropriate relationship, naturally you start thinking sexual. But in this situation, there was nothing sexual in it, and that still doesn't make it right, and that didn't stop her from being penalized. Okay, so it doesn't have to be sexual before it's considered inappropriate. So the onus is on you to know what is appropriate, what is acceptable, and what is right for you to do. Okay, so the next lesson I picked from this is don't ever find yourself silencing your conscience. Don't silence your conscience. Trust your instincts, because this lady, the nurse now, at some point during their relationship, she said it and she was quoted, "If anyone found out we were friends, I would be in trouble." She said that. That is just her inner man, just her mind, her spirit ministering to her. That was just her conscience telling her that something is wrong with this relationship. But she suppressed it and carried on with the relationship, and that was what led her into the mess. Obviously, if she had paused at that point, probably take a moment to reflect and cut out the relationship, she wouldn't have found herself in this situation. So once that, just trust your instinct. Once it's occurring to you that this thing I'm doing, I don't think is right, I don't think it's appropriate, then take a pause, think about it, seek counsel, get help. Okay, so don't ever find yourself silencing that small voice inside of you. The nurse did, and it put her into a major problem now. Okay, the next lesson I picked from this is resignation don't stop investigation. Resignation don't stop investigations. I've seen many people, in a bid to run away from being investigated, in a bid to run away from facing disciplinary action, they resign and just see that as a cheap option to run away from all this. But it doesn't work like that in the UK. If you run away from your employer by resigning, you can't run away from the regulatory body, you can't run away from the NMC. Okay, there was one that happened just 2 months ago like that. It was a similar situation. She had issues. She resigned and she was reported to, because you have to know that the hospital you are working with, they also have the responsibility to protect public interest. And protecting public interest is if they have identified a concern about your practice, then they have the responsibility to report to the regulatory body that we have concern about this person, even if you no longer work with them, because obviously you are going to pick up a job somewhere else and you are going to continue that malpractice. So trying to protect the public from your malpractice or the concerns they've got about you, they will report you to the regulatory body. So resigning or resignation don't always solve the issue. I'm sure if this nurse hadn't resigned, if she had remained in a hospital, it would have been a local punishment for her. The disciplinary action was just constituted by the hospital, so it could have just been a local issue. It would have stayed within the hospital, probably took her back to supernumerary, at worst probably given her a suspension or something milder. Okay, it wouldn't have gotten to the Nursing and Midwifery Council in the first place. Okay, but because she resigned, they are left with no choice than to report her to the regulatory body. So before you resign, make sure your motive for resignation is correct. Then the next lesson I picked from this is honesty and reflection. Is very important. When she found out that, okay, this issue, anyway, is already coming up, because when you look at the NMC report that was released, that's the National Midwifery Council report that was released, the spokesperson said the nurse hadn't shown any insight into her misconduct, and there was the risk she would repeat it if allowed to continue practicing. If she had admitted that, okay, she did something wrong, then she reflected on it, she had a reflection, okay, how next time this is what you do better. I'm sure NMC could have probably given a lighter punishment, okay, because from their statement it shows that that was what they were looking for. They were looking for that insight which the nurse hasn't demonstrated. So, and once you don't have that insight, once you can't demonstrate the insight, there's a risk that you will still repeat the same situation. You still repeat it all over again if you continue practicing. And that was why they had to strike her off. It's so sad. Okay, so the last thing I have got here is the fact that every nurse needs to understand professional boundaries. Okay, you need to understand professional boundaries. It is professional boundaries that tells you what is expected of you and what is acceptable. Okay, it's like a continuum. The continuum, it tells you when you are under involved, when you are in the therapeutic zone of helpfulness, and when you are over involved with a patient. Okay, so it tells you what is expected and what is acceptable. I think you should take a conscious effort to sit down, read about it, and know what is expected of you, what is acceptable in your country of practice. Because what is acceptable where you are coming from, especially if you are an international nurse, what is acceptable where you are coming from might be totally unacceptable in the UK. And you need to, it's your responsibility to find that out and stick and play by the rule. Okay, so try as much as possible to understand what is acceptable, because for the nurse to have become friends with these patients outside the hospital, definitely it all started from when the patient was under her care. They must have been interacting, sharing personal information that is making them to like each other, and they felt, obviously they must have exchanged maybe phone numbers and things like that. So these are boundaries that you shouldn't cross for any reason, and it's your responsibility to draw that line and know when you are crossing it. If you don't know what to do, then you should know where to go. So those are just the basic lessons I learned from this issue. You can let us know from the comment section if there are other lessons you are able to pick from this, so we can all learn together. I would like to hear your own view in the comment section, and if you feel the punishment is too harsh as well, you can let us know. If you feel it's fair enough, then you can let us know in the comments. So thank you very much. I'm Nurse Adekola. I hope to see you in my next video.